Hello again all. Hello there. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it might be for you depending on where you are. Welcome back to another episode of this series of Minecraft. I think the general vibe here, I had a look at what I did with the first one, and I quite liked the idea of doing the same thing, but setting sort of a clearly defined goal, both for what we're going to be trying to do in the game, in a given session of this, and what we intend to do as well, just to kind of have a conversation about something here. That immediately, that felt very, very formal. Welcome to the Zoom meeting, where we're going to be having a presentation today. No, that's not really what the plan is, but on review of what I did, I it was alright, but I thought it could do with just a little bit more structure. So, with that said, I think, also, I suppose a couple of things just off the bat that's going to be different this time around. The very first thing, I had no idea what I was thinking, but these windows are completely gross. They are awful, so we're just going to be amending those straight away, basically, because they are awful. So we're going to sleep, we're going to try and get rid of the monsters and the rain, hopefully, although it seems like that's sticking around, so I love that for me. We're going to grab some more sand. There is creepers everywhere around here. That's probably foreshadowing. Yeah, so a couple of things just off the bat. We're going to take care of this ugly window situation because I have no idea what I was thinking. Really, just they look terrible. So while that glass is smelting, we'll go over some of the other stuff. I got rid of the button tips. I'll be honest, I wasn't really paying attention and didn't notice that they were on the screen, which probably does say quite a lot about me, but I had no knowledge that they were on the screen at all. They're gone now because they are a little bit intrusive. And then what I was saying as well, just about trying to set more of a clearly defined goal for a given session, both for the kind of Minecraft part of it, and then also just for having something to talk about, because I am, as I've come to realise, and I didn't really know this about myself, a bit of a blabbermouth. I sort of just open my mouth and let my belly rumble a little bit, so we're going to set a bit more structure on that. For the Minecraft goals, I think today it would be great to build a farm, build a nice farm. I do have a village pretty close by, so I think I'm going to be going over to them and taking, if they have potatoes or carrots, taking those. I think that looks a little bit better, at least for now, right? This still, I'm not sure on, but there's enough windows here now. I will address the... this is a starter house. We'll say that. So in terms of the game, I'm going to be building a farm, attempting some mining, and then as well, if there is any time left over, begin construction on a stable. I did get a saddle relatively early on, the last time I did this, so I would like to try and get a horse, and if I can, well, there's one right there, that might be the horse. My enemy's still here as well, in case you were curious. So I'm going to try and get a horse, build a nice stable for the horse, if possible, but the two main things are just construction of a relatively nice farm and just a bit of mining to try and get some resources together. And then in terms of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. Really just kind of based on what's going on for me right now. It's the weekend here. At least when I'm recording this, it is the weekend. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a bit of a discussion about something that I'm calling reclaiming the weekend. Excuse me as well if I do go a bit quiet at some moments during this. It is Sunday evening and I found myself sitting in my living room playing some Minecraft, sipping on a mimosa, which we can consider the end result of this concept that I want to talk about today, of reclaiming the weekend. If you if you follow this completely informal, not required tutorial of living, and I'll just get going on the construction of a farm here. If you follow this completely unrequired, unmandated tutorial, at the end of it you might find yourself sitting in a clean, nice house, sipping on a mimosa, playing some Minecraft with your Sunday evening. If that appeals to you, then great. If that doesn't, then you are strange in my book. So, before I suppose we can get to that final result, I do have some potatoes here as well, which is lovely. And again, I am a little bit of a scatterbrain, so if I do go off the rails here at any point and just start talking about something completely unrelated, then kind of sorry but not sorry. I don't really care. This is not a super structured idea. It's just something that I wanted to have as a bit of a backup to kind of go back to in case I completely run out of things to say. This underlying theme of reclaiming the weekend is going to be the vibe. Oh, have they added new dogs to the game? Hello. He's cool. I guess they've added new wolves to the game since the last time I played. Love that. Yeah, so as I say, with the idea of reclaiming the weekend in mind, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think that means and how I went from where I started with this, which was probably coming up on a year ago now, just compared to now, because I do think in that time I have made a good number of changes that really have led to a positive impact on my life. Specifically, is this guy following me? Bit of a creep, eh? Yeah, a lot of changes in my life that I really do think have made a positive impact and a positive change. And I'm just going to grab a couple of different kinds of wood as well, because this farm will obviously probably be using fences, although I'm a bit undecided on fences versus stone walls. I'll try both and I'll see what I like, and make up my mind. Maybe stone walls, but in any case it's good to have wood anyway. Yeah, so I've made a couple of changes to the way that I treat the week and the weekend in the past year that I really do think have had a positive impact and have allowed me to enjoy my weekend a lot more. And I thought it would be good to kind of go over that, share that. If it's useful to anyone, then great, and worst case scenario is just a little bit of background noise, so you can kind of just zone out and completely ignore anything that I'm saying if it has no relevance to you. But if it does, and you're someone who can find yourself struggling with the weekend, I don't know, we're witnessing a murder in real time, tough. If you find yourself struggling with the weekend and are a bit unsure on what to do with yourself, then this is what I did, this is what I tried, and this is the kind of result that I found from that. I'm going to grab some of these flowers as well. I think we're going to try and make it like a nice style of garden, and that's something else as well with this series in general. I probably won't be rushing to do anything. There's no real end goal in mind. When I played Minecraft before, there wasn't actually, for the first year again or so, there was no end to the game. So that idea of kind of quickly running through all of the content, going to the Nether, going to the Nether fortress, and trying to beat the Ender Dragon and get ridiculously powerful gear, it just wasn't as much of a big deal when I played it first time around as it is now. So there won't really be that kind of pace with this series. I'll do everything in my own time, and I will probably do all those things eventually, but not in any hurry. So sorry to disappoint on that one. Yes, so with regards to the sort of idea of reclaiming your weekend, to provide some context on where I'm coming from with this, as I say, around about a year ago now, I was in a bit of a rough spot when it came to my weekends. I'm about, well, I am. There's no about. I'm 24 years old now, so I'm just starting to approach my mid-20s, and I've found that the idea of the weekend has changed a lot for me in the past couple of years, going from being 17, 18 years old and being at university, doing that kind of thing, to now. It's a very different experience, and I did struggle with the transition to what I think a more, not adult, because I don't think I'm fully an adult. Maybe I am. I suppose it depends on your perspective, but I don't really feel like a true adult as of yet. I don't think so. So, as I say, kind of had that transition in the past couple of years from full-time university student, where to me an ideal weekend was very simple, because it always felt like there was things to do that I didn't have to actively think of. There was always some sort of event happening or thing happening in my life where my plans were very straightforward. You know, we'd be doing whatever, we'd be having a couple of drinks, going out to the bar, just having a good time, kind of living life, which is fine. Especially at that time, that was kind of the way I wanted to do things, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But you know, coming around to the age I am now, and entering full-time employment, I've always had a job of some sort. Being in high school and going into university, most of the time I've done some sort of work on the side. Just to step back into Minecraft for a second here, I think walls is the way. Now the question is, what kind of walls can you make? Will it show me, or do I have to... I'm thinking either cobblestone walls or stone brick walls could be nice. Stone brick walls might be the one I'm thinking, so I'm going to start smelting some stone for that. And have I started running out of coal finally? Yeah, so that might even take the choice away from me, that the first thing I might have to do is just go mining and try and find some materials. So I think I'll quickly step away from the building of a farm and just start doing that, which suits me. That's kind of a mindless activity to get on with for a bit here. So, as I was saying, sort of getting to the age now where I'm holding down a full-time job, roughly kind of 40 hours a week, something in that range, and a lot of what I was doing when I was at uni. I'm not really doing anymore. A lot of my friends who I had back then, for whatever reason, have kind of have moved on with their lives. Some of them, it just sort of happened, just kind of grew apart, that sort of thing. But some of them were a bit more active in that end. So I do find myself now, more often than not, spending weekends either just by myself, or I do have my girlfriend up here with me. But the kind of vibe of those weekends has changed a lot. So kind of about a year ago now, I was just getting into the first year of my employment, coming up on a year in my job, and I realised that I was sort of getting the hang of being employed, right? But really, doing the job and being in that environment was very draining. Finding myself when Friday came around and Saturday came around, just being completely exhausted and not really having it. Oh, that's a terrible place to start writing. Not really having any kind of desire to do anything, but just sort of stay in bed. I'll tell you what I'll do. Actually, I have this really big cave here, and I'm thinking long term. This is where my house may be. This might not be the way the house looks at the end, depending on how long this goes for. But if this is going to be my area, I quite like the way it's flat here, and I could definitely expand and build a couple of things around in this area. What I would want to do with this is turn it into a proper style of mineshaft. So that's great. There's some coal there anyway, I think, unless I'm mistaken. Or is that some sort of cave? Yeah, cave vines. Well, okay. Yeah, so long term, this might become some sort of cave system where I set up like the idea that there's been people here who've been mining and been drilling. I think that would look nice and get it lit up properly. So it would be worth just taking some time to actually explore this cave and get some easy resources from it. Fuck's sake. This guy's... They're everywhere, I feel like. Are these more common than they used to be? I don't know. They feel very, very common. Okay. Didn't blow up very much. Yeah, so as I was saying, sort of ended up in that spot where my work was actually becoming more standard. I felt like I was getting a bit of confidence in what I was doing and started to really get the hang of what the job was and what the position entailed. But it really did drain me. I was basically spending a lot of my days at the weekend just really doing as little as possible, just kind of lying in my bed. I'm big on TikTok, so I was watching a lot of TikTok on my phone. Really not having a terrible time or anything, but really not feeling particularly like I was doing much with the time that I did have away from my job. So at that point, I kind of knew that something might have to change, you know. It seemed like it was the sort of time for it, and actually this is a tiny cave above ground, as it would seem. So maybe we'll just start doing some strip mining. Yeah, so as I say, it sort of came to a point where I knew that a change might have to be made, right? And that I would have to start doing some different things with my weekend, just to try and get a sense that I really had spent the time wisely, and that I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time in any way. So with anything, there was a good bit of trial and error. But through that process of just understanding that I would have to change a couple of things and trying some different things out, I really found that there's two, to me, kinds of of weekend, right? You have a weekend where, because everything in your life becomes a lot less spontaneous when you hit a certain age, and people aren't quite as willing just to out of nowhere reach out to you and say, hey, like we've got this thing going on tonight, do you want to come? And your plans are set from there. Because of that, you have a weekend where you in advance have planned some sort of event, right? And then you have weekends where you don't. There's no preset plan. It's very much okay, there's nothing on the agenda, what do we do with our time sort of weekend. And I can speak to both a little bit, because I feel like finally I really have got myself in a good routine when it comes to what to do, despite there either being a clearly defined plan or not. I feel like I am spending my time now quite wisely, and that I always feel like when Monday comes around that I have had a bit of a weekend, regardless of how it's been spent. So I suppose the easier one is planning things, right? What do you do? What do you plan? Where do you go? What do you do with your time? And while that is a relatively easy answer, it's also one that I feel like is pretty subjective. A lot of that does depend on how you feel and what sort of things add value for you. For me, a lot of what I want to do at this age is things that I know I might not be able to do in the future, at least as easily. So as a good example for that, recently I took the time, about maybe a month in advance or so, and just booked a weekend away in Sofia, which is the capital of Bulgaria, just to go and see a couple of places in Bulgaria and try and experience that country. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not one of these people who advocates for long extended periods of travel. I'm not a gap year type of guy. I've never been to Thailand. I've never been to Malaysia. I've never gone away on those long extended holidays with the intent of finding myself. I've always very much known who I am, so it's nothing like that. But I am the kind of guy where I would take a weekend away and just go and see a place for a couple of days. So what I did for Bulgaria was essentially take the Friday off of my job, just booked in a holiday day for that, so that I could fly out there nice and early on Friday morning, so that essentially I could see the capital of Sofia on the Friday, go around and we did a communist walking tour essentially. And I really do advocate for that as well in general. I think that following the kind of tour guides for a given area is a great way to very quickly get an understanding of that area's history, some of the more significant landmarks. Like while this was a communist walking tour, they took us around and they showed us a lot of the significant architecture for the area and explained why it was important as well. And I thought that was very, very cool to see that in the case of Bulgaria, you would see all these gigantic, impressive buildings, but it took a tour guide to sit down and explain why they were built and why they were built in that manner, to really get that full appreciation for the place and the architecture. And it was beautiful. We went, well, it's actually my girlfriend and I that went on this holiday. We went to explore Sofia on the first day, and then on the second day we had gone to a place called Plovdiv, which is the kind of second biggest city in Bulgaria, and was also advertised as the oldest city in Europe, although I'm not sure if that's that's true or not, but I believe it based on the place. It was stunning. It was wonderful. I really did love it, and it was a weekend spent basically exploring just one of the most wild countries that I'd ever seen in terms of its kind of landscape. It was all mountain ranges and nature and national parks, but also a lot of very old churches that we went to see as well, because a lot of stuff out there is kind of early century, it's kind of in that area around Macedonia and Greece, and there's a lot of very old significant buildings there. So that was essentially the plan, and that was the weekend. Fly out on the Friday, spend the weekend exploring what Bulgaria had to offer, and fly back on the Sunday. And we went back to work on the Monday, but I think in hindsight probably wouldn't do that again. Might take the Monday off as well, just to have that day to recover and remind yourself that you're back home, because we were very, very tired after that. So to me, something like that represents very much a weekend with a plan, right? We had a clear, I guess, itinerary. That's probably the word for it. Plan of what we wanted to see, what we wanted to do, places to go. It was a very planned weekend from start to finish, and it was great. It was great. I felt like it was a weekend well spent, and that we did enough to justify the money and justify going there. It was great. And you can plan stuff like that a couple of months in advance, just to really give yourself something to look forward to in a couple of weeks' time, in maybe a month's time. Really would recommend that as a way to go about planned events. But then of course you have time in between, right? There's going to be a lot of weeks where it's not quite as simple as booking what can be a relatively expensive flight, although sometimes you'll get them cheap. And actually I do recommend that if the way you want to go about this is travelling, don't start out by just going to a place that you think you might want to see. Instead, I'd recommend going based on where you can fly for cheap. Just save yourself some money, right? And you might end up seeing a place that you never thought you'd go, and that actually you found to be quite worthwhile, which is kind of the case for myself in Bulgaria. I never really I thought I would end up there, but I went and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, as I was saying, obviously there's going to be weekends where you don't have any plans, there's nothing big going on, and it's kind of up to you to make your own entertainment and make your own plans and set your own goals to ensure that you kind of feel like the weekend's been well spent, right? And I do have a recommendation for that, a way that you can go about going through that weekend and feeling like you've had enough of an experience that where the week comes back around, you don't feel like you've just wasted your time. And we kind of, my girlfriend and I have come up with a name for these kind of weekends. Sort of like a reset weekend. And this is something that I've realised as well. Kind of on an unrelated note, I'm horrendous at not looking after myself. I can look after myself fine. There's never going to be a situation where I accidentally starve or anything like that. But when it comes to keeping my space nice, if you will, you know, like cleaning and tidying, I'm not the best, I'll be honest. So we came up with this idea of a reset weekend as a way to ensure that the space I'm staying in is always clean, it's always nice, I always feel good being in it, and as well, having gone through those steps and doing that, having felt like I spent my weekend in a worthwhile way. So the kind of the way we've gone about that, and my recommendation in general would be to find something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly that. It can be anything you want. Find a thing that you maybe feel like you're putting off, that you have been wanting to do and waiting to do, but haven't done because you just can't be bothered, and really just do it. And I can't make it any easier, unfortunately. I can't make it any less painful doing it, apart from the suggestion that with anything there are ways that you can make it a little bit more fun. And I guess just so that's not a nebulous point, for me, when it came to resetting my space and cleaning my space, I found joy in that, in finding ways to clean that are as efficient as possible. So, and this goes back to my point of why I call myself a bit of a Philistine when it comes to cleaning. I've been shown tools that you could use for cleaning that I never knew existed, and probably would never have known existed, but make the whole thing just so much easier than it would have been otherwise. I guess an easy example, wireless hoovers might make me sound a bit silly or a bit dumb, but I never knew they were a thing. I never knew you could buy hoovers that didn't have any cords attached, and finally got one a couple of weeks ago. Christ, that's a lot of zombies. Maybe a dungeon around here somewhere. Finally got a wireless hoover a couple of weeks ago, and it's made my cleaning days so much easier, and I could not recommend them enough. Just a real game changer for almost no reason. Stuff like that, buying special kinds of mops and just that make the whole thing so much more bearable. I got one of those little handled sponge things that you can use for clearing dishes that have the kind of washing up liquid attached at the base that make cleaning feel so much less grimy. You don't have to get your hands dirty at all. You can just, I don't know, these are all relatively silly things, but I guess they speak to the way that I've made this fun, and the method that I go about making this process of doing the thing that I need to do fun. And you know, we'll make it a bit of a game as well. She'll take care of 2 rooms, I'll take care of 2 rooms, and whoever cleans the best gets an extra bit of bacon with their lunch. That kind of silliness. And it's obviously a silly criteria, but I don't know, things like that. You can make it fun. And that would be the way that I would start your weekend off. Come Saturday morning, do that thing that you've just been completely dreading and completely putting off, and has been ruining your week, and you felt like you haven't been able to do it because you're far too tired. Saturday's the first day where you're going to have energy. You've had hopefully a good sleep on Friday night, and if you haven't, then that's sort of its own issue. That, you know, you should probably address that as well. Try and get a bit of a better sleep at least. Yeah, on the Saturday, wake up and just straight away do that kind of annoying task that you need to get out of the way. And then otherwise, Saturday can very much become a sort of decompressing day as well, right? Find a thing you do that makes you happy now that you've got that task out of the way, and you're feeling, because trust me, when you do that task, I know it kind of is going to be so annoying and you're going to be dreading it, but when you do it, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel like you got that thing done, and that weight off your shoulders. You're going to feel very accomplished, and maybe try and make yourself like a nice lunch after that. treat yourself a little bit. If you want to order out, get some food, fair enough. Do whatever you've got to do, and let the rest of Saturday be very much a decompressing day. If you wanna crack open that bottle of prosecco and have a few mimosas, as I am now, that would be the time to do it. Speaking of, so yeah, that's how I would approach your Saturday. Take care of annoying business, and then very much decompress after that, and just take your time. I would say find something as well that is not mindless. Like, even if you are relaxing, find a thing that can be tracked, maybe. Like for me, it might just be playing Minecraft for a while and doing something like this and making some progress on a world, and something that I can track the progress of over time to see results, right? Something like that might be a good idea. Alternatively, if you have like a TV show you want to watch, or whatever it is, it really can be anything, do that. And then Sunday, to be honest, I see that as while you've taken care of like a physical task that you really need to take care of on the Saturday, in the same way on the Sunday, split it up into parts. I would say that Sunday morning very much should be like a general admin day, right? So if you have, for example, bills that you got to pay coming up, or you've got a family member or friends that you haven't reached out to in a while, or any rubbish errands that you've got to run, almost died there. Sunday morning to me is the time to deal with that. You've got all your cleaning, all your hard stuff out of the way, but you've got some annoying stuff left over that needs to be taken care of. Do that on Sunday morning. And I get this might not be applicable to everyone. I understand if you're a parent and you've got kids, your weekends could be a lot more rough, and I don't have any advice for you because I am not one of those. This is very much tailored towards people in my demographic who maybe are just starting to get into their mid-20s, getting into that kind of office corporate environment, maybe have picked up their first 9 to 5. I mean, obviously I did part-time stuff prior to that, but it was always shift work, and it was very different. I feel like a 9 to 5 is a very different experience. So if you're in that kind of category and it's your first time doing a 9 to 5, I suppose this is tailored towards you, and maybe in 20 years time I'll have advice for you on the other stuff, but in the meantime, sorry. Yeah, so on your Sunday, take care of some kind of rubbish stuff that's been eating at you again, but I wouldn't do so much physical stuff this time, more just if you have things to take care of that are, yeah, things I've mentioned, do that in the morning. And similarly in the afternoon, that's kind of your time to just have a bit of a relax. I know, after going through this whole thing, I realised that what I've said actually probably pretty straightforward, but sometimes I feel like it takes someone saying something that's very straightforward for it to click for people. At least for me it does. I could set out with the intention to do exactly what I just described on a Friday night and wake up on a Saturday morning and not just kind of let my day slip away without ever really putting in that effort and really working for anything. Just because that's an easy thing to do. But as I say, I really have found value in taking those steps and taking care of the hard stuff, getting out of the way in the morning when you have the will to do it, and then I was just going to try and sleep as well to take care of the rain, but I guess that's not really an option. Take care of that, in your morning, to allow yourself to get that kind of rush and that feeling that you have achieved something that's worthwhile, and then in your afternoon just using the chance to relax as much as possible. I'm gonna try and make some armor now, I think. I don't really want to die in the same horrendous way that I did in the first episode of this. Died within about 2 minutes of starting this up. I'm not amazing at Minecraft, or even good, so I think that really did set the tone for the way this might go. I'm playing on normal, in case anyone's curious. Have I made 2 holes as well? Silly man. Yeah, now pretty much following that method that I just described, I've pretty much ended up in the position that I'm in now, where I actually feel like I'm having weekends where I'm getting what I want to out of it, right? I'm getting that kind of feeling that I've had a proper couple of days to achieve things, to meet up with my goals, and feel satisfied that I've not wasted my time. And that was really it. That's the general approach, I would say, of going about doing that. On the Minecraft front, I have now gathered what I would say is a relatively acceptable amount of materials from a mine, at least for the time being. Obviously I'll go back beyond a certain point. Now, farm. Interesting that I have a big body of water at the back of my house. I think whenever I have kind of spans of water like this, the temptation is always to use the space to build up like a dockyard or like a fishing hut of some sort. So I might just use the space here to do that. That's going to be eventually, hopefully, if my willpower holds together, some sort of mine shaft. So I want to do the farm in this general area over here. So we're going to start putting together some of the material for that. Oh, something I forgot to mention about weekends as well. I guess because it's not super specific to the weekend, and it's just something that I've started incorporating more generally as well. It is some sort of like workout plan, right? That is for a long time something that I 100% avoided. Not part of my life. I didn't like it. I didn't like exercising. It was tough, it was hard, didn't enjoy it. But now, for the first time I feel like in my life, I've really, well, that's not fair. I've been somewhat into exercise previously, but it never felt like consistent or stable. But recently I have got into what I think is a pretty good exercise routine, and that's something that I've started incorporating into my weekends as well, is taking a solid bit of time to just take care of myself. Go to the gym. I probably do it maybe 4 or 5 times a week, I would say. And same thing goes on the weekend. Just taking a solid bit of time to go do some exercise. And the way I do it, actually, I think is hopefully relatively interesting compared to what I did previously. So as I say, I have done a decent bit of exercise in the past, but never really in a way that I thought was sustainable. And what I mean by that is, before I was very, very much an all or nothing person, right? The sort of person who, if I wasn't going at 100% all the time, felt like it was sort of a waste of time me being there. And that's, I feel like, very much what is preached. At least I feel like to guys of a certain age. If you follow exactly what you're supposed to, online or whatever. The vibe is very much, you're a man, you need to do this 100% all the time. Don't be scared, don't be whatever. You need to be tough, you need to be strong, you need to impress people, whatever it might be. And ultimately what I found is that's not really what I want. It's not what I feel like is important. And what I've done instead to get on that kind of routine where I can go to the gym very, very consistently, or at the very least, if I do find myself in a position where I might get off of it for a couple of days, or fall off the wagon, whatever you want to call it, not in that way, but get out of my good habits and very, very quickly get back into them. I found that a lot of it comes in the method used for exercise, right? Now, my routine isn't really about going 100% all the time. It's not really what I do anymore. And funnily enough, the way I got into this good habit was by almost doing the exact opposite. When I started the gym this time around, I made a very specific effort to exercise in a way that felt like I was doing very, very little. I always wanted the exercise to feel easy, like while I was actually doing it. So I changed as well, because I was going at it pretty hard for a while with doing like weights and that, but after a while I kind of stopped doing that, and I might eventually start doing it again. But what I found, especially with my job, is that I'm just still quite exhausted after my work finishes, and the last thing I want to go and do really is throw a bunch of weights around after that and keep up this ridiculous diet to try and gain muscle. So instead, what I found really, really helpful is approaching exercise purely just doing cardio. So I'm only on the treadmill, and funnily enough, for a long time as well, I wasn't even running. I tried out a bunch of different things, and actually I'll just throw this sugarcane down. This is going to be kind of separate from the rest of the farm. Throw it down here. Is that another village over there, or is that the same one? Maybe the same one. Yeah, so sort of when I started the gym, I wasn't even... Well, I did a couple of different things over time. I started on the exercise bike, because I do struggle a little bit with high impact exercise. So like running can mess with me, it can hurt my knees. So I knew that going into it, and what I said was essentially, I'm going to stick to stuff that's like low impact exercise and it's not gonna mess up my knees. So I started on the exercise bike and the kind of cross trainer thing purely for a given period of time, just to kind of get my cardio fitness back into a position where I was comfortable with it, and I thought I could do exercise for a decent period of time without getting completely gassed out, right? So I did that for a bit, and then after a while I realised, actually, funnily enough, one of the most efficient ways you can go about exercising, at least based on what I found online, which might be complete lies obviously, and if it is, then I guess I'll find out relatively soon, but one of the most efficient ways to go about exercising apparently is incline walking on a treadmill. So I started doing that, and funnily enough, of all the things that I've ever done, I really have found good results doing that. Been relatively happy that is showing some pretty good results, alongside what else I've been doing with dieting. And funnily enough, I've sort of gone about dieting in a very similar way, where it's not about just forcing yourself to eat as little as possible. Instead, it's sort of been a very calm approach to the whole thing. I've made it almost silly in a way, right? For at the start, I didn't do any dieting of any sort. It was purely just do your exercise, and that'll be enough to cover you, and that you'll probably get healthy that way. And I realised that was good, but it wasn't making me feel any better. I was starting to look a little bit better, but I still felt very, very rough, if you will. So what I decided to do at that point, also I'm going to get rid of that dirt because it just doesn't look good for a farm. At that point, I felt very much like I needed to do something else. So I started just with only eating meals for a little bit. So I would still eat a decent amount, but instead of snacking at all, every time I got hungry, I would just purely start eating a meal of some sort. It could be anything as little as just making some toast, or up to going and getting like a full steak and eating it with some chips. It could be anything in between. And that was alright for a little bit. But I wanted to go a little bit more seriously for a while. So what I added at that point is the thing I've been trying at the moment, and it sounds incredibly silly, but at the moment I'm not eating anything in a supermarket that has a red label on it. So I don't know. This probably applies to a good number of countries, but in the UK, on our food, a lot of the items have labels on them, and on those labels typically it could either show red, amber, or green, and it quite literally is just as simple as saying, okay, I'm never going to eat something that for one of the sections has a red label on it. And funnily enough, doing that, out of all the things that I've tried so far, has really made me feel the best. I'm feeling great at the moment. I feel like I'm starting to properly lose some weight, because obviously I fell into the same trap that everyone did over lockdown of just put on some weight where you didn't really need to. So I feel like through this silly thing of taking away the red labels, really it's helped and starting to make me feel a lot better. And just, yeah. So I guess the point on that is just it's funny how the silliest things, both when it comes to exercising, because now the vibe for that is very much the vibe for that. I think I'm gonna do I might do birchwood for the. I always like doing like an outskirt of the farm, and I think I'm gonna do that out of birch. Yeah, as I was saying, it's funny how the silliest things when it comes to finding motivation to go to the gym and motivation to hold your diet together can be the most effective. Hopefully that makes sense, that point. And that's just what I found. That's been my experience, is just stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Stop trying to make it an end of the world, you either win or you lose, all or nothing, and just take it back a step, realise what you're doing, realise why you're doing it. It's nothing more than just, I want to feel good about myself, I want to look good, whatever it might be, and just find ways to make it fun for yourself. That's it. That's all there is to it. And hopefully you should find, at least I have, like what I do now is this incline treadmill, and I kind of split it because, funnily enough, after I've been doing this sort of purely incline treadmill, I have eventually found a will for running every now and then. And so now when I want to run, I run, and when I'm feeling too sort of drained, whether it's just had a bad day at work and I'm not really up to it, or just feeling sore, I will just walk. And that's it. I'm quite conscious that I am sort of approaching the end of my time here, so what I'll do is I'll just finish up that little wooden pathway, and I think that will be it for today. I might fail in my objective to construct the farm, which is brutal, but I do feel like I made a good bit of progress in what I was able to do. Don't feel like it was time wasted. That's something else I wanted to try and do today as well, is take away as much of the need for a deadline. It was sort of the gimmick of the last time I did this, was, oh yeah, I'm doing it while doing my job from home, but I don't know, I felt like the time pressure of the whole thing was, at least it made me laugh, but it was also kind of unnecessary. So this time around there wasn't really any set deadline apart from the fact that I do eventually need to go to sleep. But we will kind of wrap things up here. I'll just throw down these last couple of bits of wood. I almost thought I ran out there. So we'll throw that down, and that's looking alright. And we'll make it look a bit nicer next time around. But yeah, that was today's video. That's what I wanted to do, and that was today's rambling as well on reclaiming your weekend. Hopefully there was some value in that for you, and if not, as I say, just treat it as background noise. Hope you appreciate the windows as well. That's me. Cheers. Catch you later. Bye.